The Kind Communicator. Life begins where ego ends. Kindness, compassion, and wisdom for all business leaders, by Elizabeth Barry. Soft skills are the future of business. If we only took the time to look into our hearts, we could see and feel more deeply, live less alienated from one another, and create amazing energy with our connected minds. His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, said, "Try to help others. If you are not able to be of help, then at least do them no harm." May you incorporate kindness, compassion, and wisdom into your daily leadership. My name is Elizabeth Barry. I'm the author of The Kind Communicator, and I'm so pleased that you are listening to this audio version of the book, and I look forward to speaking with you as you come out on the other end, loving yourself for how you speak, gentler, kinder, more thoughtfully and directly, and perhaps even love flowers and nature just a bit more. Thank you for listening. Introduction. Have you ever heard the song "The Living Years" by Mike and the Mechanics? If not, I encourage you to listen to it. And if you have heard it, I want you to stop and take a moment to listen to it again before you read this book. Listen to the lyrics. They're so beautiful and so powerful, and they comply with everything that this book says. Perhaps we can make it our theme song. Say it loud, say it clear. You can listen as well as you hear. It's too late, when we die, to admit we don't see eye to eye. Healthy is the new wealthy. And by healthy, I mean clear communication, where breath comes easier in our daily lives, stress and anxiety melt away, and relationships thrive. When we communicate as kinder leaders with less abrasiveness in our words and mannerisms, we are in truth happier, healthier adults, especially in the workplace. This book is a guide for professionals, leaders, and business teams to incorporate kindness in all areas of their lives. The relationship between leadership and kindness is a moral imperative for the success of organizations and the future of the planet. The Kind Communicator is a thought starter to take the time to slow down before we speak and to be cautious and curious of our delivery and our approach. For experienced leaders, it's a great reminder of the tools that we've learned. For budding business mavericks, it's a wonderful introduction for developing a compassionate leadership style and a foundation for successful communication. I want you to ask yourself, does leadership have to be about competitiveness, or can it simply become a greater journey through collaboration, communication, and connectedness? You have the choice to make a difference in how you speak and show up in this life. The time is now to shift and transform for yourself and for others. This book offers the challenge to all leaders to find a new level of awareness in how they show up in life for themselves and for their teams. By making the decision to incorporate consistent, proactive kindness, we can unravel the chaos and tension, leading into board meetings, phone calls, and difficult conversations. Show up happier, confident, and ready. That's the mission. There's exercises too. Each chapter includes an exercise in which I encourage you to take the time to complete. Please keep a notebook alongside of this book. As you read each chapter, kindly complete each exercise in your notebook so that your notes are always together. Maybe even title the notebook, "I Am Kind" on the cover. When you go through any of the exercises, and if you find yourself stressed, by all means, I am 100% here for you at any time. If you go through this book and you're amazed at how you truly haven't looked at your communication patterns so closely before and how they affect every area of your life, and you're thinking, wow, I have to show this moment with Elizabeth, please write to me anytime, or if you need coaching during this process, I am 100%, as I said before, here for you. Send an email to elizabethbarryconsulting@gmail.com with the subject, I am a kind communicator. The kindness innovation. Welcome to the feeling of fulfillment in the workplace, in your personal life too, thanks to a bit of rekindled kindness. Imagine that. Inside this book, you will be inspired to communicate clearly with sincerity, especially in chaos. You'll give up the need to be right to find inner peace. You'll discover the now and the present moments and share your light with this world. My mission is to help professionals speak up kindly with confidence, smile more, and communicate effectively with ease. This process is what I call a kindness innovation. It's a path that encourages everyone to navigate complex personas with gentler ways. If you're surrounded by people, you're surrounded by personalities and communication, a mix that can be either lethal or transformative. It's your choice. We must make an effort to be kinder for the sake of our health and well-being. How we respond to stress can make or break our success in adapting to change. Can we learn to show up with integrity more often? If we do, it can create a healthier lifestyle for all of us. Fight or flight responses, resistance, exhaustion, anxiety, and nerves are the first things that come to mind for individuals leading busy lives within the business world or within any world in general. We're all stressed out. And then come the side effects of the stress on the body, from headaches to heartburn, rapid breath, insomnia, a weakened immune system, high blood pressure, low sex drive. I won't continue after that one. The kindness innovation is named an innovation because to innovate means to evolve. We are all evolving leaders, and our search for clearer communication has become increasingly important. As I watch accomplished CEOs, they step down from their legacies, and their advice has not been to work harder, be stronger, or be more dominant or forceful. In fact, it's the opposite. They offer a reflective advice, such as 70% of their time could be used better. Take a serious vacation, nurture your relationships, speak less, listen more. Invest in self-care. Enjoy your friends. Enjoy your family in the moments now. Wow, now we're talking. I wrote The Kind Communicator based on pure experience. I learned from the masters at large corporations who shared legacies and stories of how empires were built with courage and conviction. I spent years as an entrepreneur adapting to change. I worked in several fast-paced environments. I listened to demeaning conversations at meetings. I watched entitled employees firsthand. And I felt sad for the monotony of people who didn't have a voice or didn't know how to project their thoughts to the world, while the strong lions in the room took advantage, didn't acknowledge, or simply didn't know how to lead with kindness. Every breakdown is a breakdown in communication. For every office with a process that is broken, there's a good chance there's a lack of the right communication tools. So let us become mindful of our ways of being so that we can learn, instill, and transform. Every day, I coach and consult business professionals, including legendary marketing directors, both male and female. With a touch of self-branding and personal and professional development, we work together to achieve their greatness stories. And as a result, they get to walk with a lighter stride through their busy worlds. They get more compassionate than they ever imagined they could be. The best leaders have the most wonderful, hard coaches. And in this book, our coach is kindness. Enter the Kind Communicator. I'd like to make a significantly larger droplet in the ripple of the oceans of our lives as professionals, and it starts with this book. Please read each page with heartfelt wisdom and share your knowledge with colleagues. As we become calmer and more connected, we can genuinely influence and lead others as happier, healthier adults. The challenge is to let it all go. Relax your shoulders. Smile. Unclench your jaw. Wiggle your toes. mess up your hair, untuck your shirt, and be a little unperfect for a while. Can I convince you to do that? Can I convince you to just get a little comfortable with being uncomfortable? Can I convince you to breathe with me? Let's all take an inhale together. Now exhale with me. Try it again. Inhale. Now exhale. Push it out. Good. On we go. When you finish this book, I know that you're going to find yourself using kinder words, knowing that each and every time you do, your legacy is building. My promise to you is that within each page, you will be inspired to make a significant shift within your communication while letting go of ego, bit by bit, day by day. I will stand for you in this process as your mentor. I've carefully placed imagery, so I'm going to ask you to imagine it, because you're listening, of nature inside this book, so that when we escape the office culture, we can get lost. Get lost in this book. Get lost in the flowers so that we can feel grounded, rooted, and unashamed in the forest of our own current patterns. Perhaps you'll be a bit bashful from your own behaviors, but who isn't? On the back of this book, there's a kindness tree, an olive tree. An olive branch is a symbol of perpetual peace, harmony, and hope. I'd like to use this analogy for all of us to strive to become more at peace with ourselves and each other. We can do this in how we show up. So please, embed your toes in the dirt amongst the tree-lined olive farms with me. Feel yourself growing like a flower and become one with losing a petal or two in the storms. When you learn to speak your truth kindly, it's like the shedding of nectar from one flower to the next, sharing new life with the world. And flowers don't mind when their nectar leaves their center, so why would you mind when your ego leaves yours? This is kindness innovation. It's at work. The nature of who you are can be found in the nature you're surrounded by. Let's look up. Let's use new eyes, shall we? A lifelong practice. I truly believe that if you are not kind, you're behind. If you want less tension in your life, you have to learn to let a little bit of tension go. When you're ready to let go of your ego, or simply put, get out of your own way, that's the first step to a stress-free, less tense new you. Let me begin by sharing that talking about kindness and compassion with leadership may be a little bit difficult. For most business leaders, I understand. So hang on tight. I know you're used to charts and graphs and kindness, and the word love can be a little uncomfortable, but please have a little bit of patience with me. There's an abundance of opportunity here, and I want it to be immersed in your life in business, inside the office and without. Let it trickle down. I know that you're going to enjoy when your ego disappears through the practices and awareness found inside these pages. And I know that it takes courage and humility to do the work. Breaking down your walls takes time. It took me a few years as I sat in my own vulnerability. I looked at my mistakes and my failures, and I admitted to them. I became accountable for them. I even named myself responsible. In 2016, I wrote a book called Own Your Vulnerability. And after its release, I was overwhelmed with the response when professional men and women were asking for more tips on letting go of ego, owning weakness and strength, and becoming one with their falls in life. I was even asked by several men to write a second Own Your Vulnerability book, but for males. And I did. It comes out in 2021. But in that very moment, I felt so honored. I knew I had opened up an entryway for both men and women to learn to let go. They were ready for the how. It was brilliant and humbling at the same time. So So here we have the kindness innovation, because when we're vulnerable, we're kind, open, connected, and shame-free. It takes time, but I'm going to teach you all the secrets that I know. Together, we can become engaged in a lifelong process, a kindness innovation. Simply put, kindness, communication, calm, without controlling, distorting, or an emotional reaction, will result in a healthy, happy lifestyle. I am certain that this practice can transform your office environment, your business, and quite frankly, your way of life. From an increase in profits to confidence, collaboration, teamwork, and freedom, to happiness and courage, how we treat one another matters. We can level up our kindness just as much as we level up our careers, our titles, and salaries. Possibility and purpose are available to us all, and when we control our breath, we can control our words. The unhealthy, embarrassing communication patterns that we carry must stop. We have to work at being happy? I know you're asking that. Yes, we do. Happiness does take work. This is adulting, and adulting is very difficult, and situations and people can leave us muddled on the floor in a ball. Nights and days in heartache, writhing from what went wrong, unable to fix our glitches, or confused about the glitches of others. What I'm providing for you is a new process of learning, to let go in order to live more connected than ever before. By using images of nature, we can become one with the nature of who we are. And we can bloom when the time is right for each of us. Whether you're working on yourself or if you're in the vicinity of others who need work but don't know it yet or don't want to admit it, this book will bring you peace. This is an invitation to celebrate the simplicity of gratitude for breathing and living, because letting go of ego is in the breath. It's in the exhale. I promise that if you ache to live happier, and if you incorporate these techniques into your work and life, the language you begin to use will develop lifelong wisdom. With the practices found in the Kind Communicator, you will surely create the legacy you wish to leave in this world. Let's be kind, shall we? Be kind whenever possible. It is always possible. The 14th Dalai Lama. Exercise. Let's practice. Take the first sheet of paper in your notebook. I want you to write down what you're facing. If it's anxiety, stress, anger, maybe it's fear, resentment, or guilt. This will begin our process. This is an awareness process of understanding the work that we have to do. It's the first stepping stone to learning what is actually in your way. These are the beginning identifiers as to what makes us unkind or unhappy. And once we recognize the feelings that we own, we can learn to diffuse them. When you're done, I want you to sign the bottom of the page with the words in all caps, "I got this." What's beyond the ego? I founded a brand called Beyond Ego. It's based upon the idea that what's beyond ego is actually greatness. It's kindness, compassion, empathy, and all the wonderful traits that assist leaders to become more influential. I'd like to tell you how it came about. On a sunny summer day in June of 2018, I was enjoying a wonderful sushi lunch with my California friends and their new toddler. I mentioned my passion for discussing ego healthily within office environments across the United States and perhaps the world. It seemed impossible at the time, and I had a colleague even once tell me that business folks don't want to talk about ego or kindness, and I had no place putting this message out there. Go figure. This guy was way wrong, but he got me rattled for sure. As I sat down with my friends, I described my mission. I talked about how vulnerable we are as people, and when we're able to let go and share our dark sides openly, it becomes a sense of awareness, and we start to connect with other human beings in new ways. My friends were such a great audience for me to bring this message to life. They listened. They were all ears. I recognized and I experienced large amounts of unhappy people in the business space, and that's what led me to talk about ego. I'm the elephant in the room now. I've seen so many business environments with people in cubicles hiding. They're working behind closed doors, slouched behind desks after demeaning conversations, and some leaders even sat in fear and sadness, not knowing what to do about their dysfunctional teams. It was awful. What I had seen in my business was awful. And now that I coach people in these sorts of situations, this work becomes more and more of a dire need in the business world. And I'm so pleased to bring it to everyone. I watched in disbelief over the years at how chaotic colleagues, they cried at their desks. They yelled at one another. They botched up deals and didn't play nice. They made themselves miserable in the process of doing so, and others too. The tension could be cut like a knife. Many adults were not adulting in proper ways, and some CEOs that I've met along the way didn't bat an eyelash to stop it. Either way, they weren't aware, and they didn't want to admit to their madness or didn't have a clue how to fix it. So everyone hid behind their office doors or their cubicles. What a nightmare to experience. I believe that several business professionals are awaiting a guide. The want for help. They desire it, but they find it hard to ask for what help actually looks like. It's definitely a delicate subject. Shouldn't we all know how to communicate properly? Not so much. There's really no rule book to life, and we're all emotional human beings with feelings and triggers and patterns. I've seen anxiety sorrowfully make its way front and center into the careers of hardworking, passionate people, and businesses are facing revolving doors because of it. I looked deep within myself, knowing that for change to happen in anyone, something has to spark in myself at my individual core level so that therefore I can help other human beings. As a master brand builder, people person, and overall positive human being, I knew that my talent for building and rebuilding brands was strong. I built brands so that business customers could believe in their brands again. And now I do the same work for directors, their teams, and business culture. It's personal branding at its finest, based in ego. Now let's go back to my lunch. As we drank our green tea, I shouted to my friends, what if the people at the companies, what if these people, these leaders, these managers believed in themselves first? That's the kindness innovation. They simply have to have the tools to be kinder communicators. From there, better business can bloom. My friends were sold, and the idea was blossoming, just like the trees that we were sitting amongst. So here's the book. This is the book that sparks the kindness innovation. And while I still get to build brands for a living, my focus has shifted to the people behind the brands, personal leadership and professional development. My clients are the leaders who are ready to see their flaws and work through them for the sake of how they show up in this world. Ultimately, it comes down to the greater good of the companies and teams, which is why I mention the phrase throughout the book, happy, healthy adults. That's something that you can't fake. You're either happy or you're not. And when you're not, your communication is a clear indicator of that. But it can be all fixed. Everything can be diffused and understood healthily. The results of my work include charismatic confidence, kinder communication, the ability to speak up, the navigation of complex personalities, and the building of calmer business leaders. Possibility and purpose grow as people discover and rediscover their greatness. That's where the paradigm shift occurs, and it's what I've set out to do. And while most businesses focus on culture with ping pong tables, bowling, or beer nights, my idea about ridding the ego can be really cool. It could be a great alternative approach. The problem with bowling nights is this. You get a bunch of unhappy employees who are not communicating well. You take them out, give them some fancy drinks. They smile for a few hours, go home, and the next morning arises with the same Can I say that on here? I won't. Same stuff happening again and again with poor communication amongst teams. Profits get lost, confidence is at an all-time low, and people are miserable. But the bowling was fun, right? Not so much. Most of them threw the ball in the gutter anyway. So I thought about it. What if my communication coaching and consulting could become the new office culture? What if Elizabeth Barry's leadership coaching was offered through my books, as you're listening now, and workshops that could inspire inner shifts among people in office environments? The what if had to turn into a reality. Back to my lunch again. As I dipped my sashimi into the spicy mayo under the cherry blossom trees in Jersey City, I painted this vision to my friend John Bates and his wife Sharon. With their new child sleeping in the stroller next to us, they said, "Elizabeth, why don't you base your new brand of ideas on the Dr. Seuss book, On Beyond Zebra?" Of course! As new parents, they brought Dr. Seuss to the table. The next day, I purchased the book, and I read how Dr. Seuss shares the excitement that our alphabet ends at Z, but that's where his begins. It was an aha moment for me, and I began to see the correlation between beyond and ego. And I thought, wow, I can really make ego a comfortable word. I know I can. Watching the characters of Dr. Seuss and how he drew them and what they said, I correlated them to my coaching analogies that break through the walls and encourage adults to smile and experience aha moments. Dr. Seuss is a change maker. He's a change maker for children, and I'm a change maker for adults. It's that clear. In On Beyond Zebra, Dr. Seuss says, "You'll be sort of surprised what there is to be found." I immediately made the connection that most of us don't want to go beyond. We're scared. But we're also intrigued by what we could find. Anyone would be frightened to create words beyond the letter Z because they don't exist. But the curiosity is there. The same idea applies to the ego. Ego is a scary word, so we don't often go there, but the real us lives beyond ego. Your life begins where ego ends. Brilliance. The moment I put this concept together, it was time to put a plan into action. As leaders, directors, CEOs, and entrepreneurs know, in order for us to learn new roles or ways of being, we need a method. Perhaps a secret business coach, hint, hint. A helping hand to let us know that it's okay to let go and it's okay to look within. And that's where the magic happens. We live in this age of quality of life, and we have nothing to lose and everything to gain. We don't always know what's next, but when we go beyond the norm, beyond the comfort zone, or quite frankly, beyond the ego, the excitement of Dr. Seuss characters come alive within each of us. We can emerge as childlike adults, relearning what it means to be kind communicators. If you're starting to feel more comfortable with ego, this is good. This is getting really good. We're getting somewhere. This is the beginning of the shift. It's high time you were shown that you really don't know all there is to be known. Dr. Seuss. Exercise. Let's practice. With pure honesty, write the 3 things that you know you'd need to work on when it comes to office communication and business relationships. It's the mentality of stepping outside of yourself for a moment to become free from being right, or in fact, allowing yourself to be wrong without feeling ashamed by it. This will get you further into the space of shifting and transformation. This will take you beyond zebra, the feeling of freedom as a Dr. Seuss character, complete with flailing arms, skipping away. On Beyonders. So now you're officially an On Beyonder. On Beyonders define themselves as communication innovators. They build confidence and accountability. They create new meaning for the world. They change behaviors and patterns. On Beyonders are a new breed of professional adult. They're willing to look within and make changes that create transformation in themselves and their communication behaviors. On Beyonders never worry or fear their flaws. They believe that what's beyond is beautiful. On Beyonders are never shackled to the past. They create a present and future that fits within their new mindset. On Beyonders are part of my tribe, my fans, my connected community, and together we will unite within the leadership platform of Beyond Ego together, where my books, my podcast lives, and there's even a Facebook group. It's a healthy place for leaders to hone in on such topics as compassion, empathy, courage, and vulnerability, especially some ego and a little bit of self-care. You can learn more at elizabethbarryconsulting.com. You can even join the Facebook group at my website. Life begins where your ego ends, so let Beyond Ego become a beautiful reminder to get out of your own way. With each book, course, and coaching experience, I'm dedicated. I want to help you achieve career and life clarity, handle people with kindness, become a courageous professional, communicate powerfully, navigate the complexity of unique personalities, become comfortable speaking up, and simply evolve into a nicer human being. Recognize ego for what it is: a collective dysfunction, the insanity of the human mind. Eckhart Tolle. Exercise. Let's practice. Write down what it means to belong to a community like Beyond Ego. Know that when you go through a hardship, you are not alone. I built this group for my fans to connect and find comfort with each other. After you join the group, please finish this sentence in your notebook. By listening, learning, and sharing ideas in a new community with others like me, I intend to the art of communication. What is the art of communication? Is it the idea of painting a better picture of what healthy communication can look like? Is it the antique gold authenticity frame that we hang on our walls as a reminder for our voice to carry less need to overpower, overspeak, or send the wrong messages? Is it the canvas we've been searching for in our careers to truly say what we mean and become who we're meant to be? I say yes to all. Let's communicate artfully, paintbrushes in hand, and get started with a newfound kindness mindset. In one of the exercises so far in this book, you were asked to write the top 3 things that you need to work on in business relationships. Please note how humbling this exercise truly is. When you understand what you need to work on, there's a chance that others know it too. This is the time to be vulnerable with yourself. I want you to own the embarrassment of behaviors that may cause you pain. Maybe have a little fun with them too. It's good for the soul. This exercise for business relationships is crucial. It's part of the kindness innovation. As we navigate business life, we learn that colleagues and coworkers carry too much of their ego. We have to make that okay. Let this book be your reminder to let it go. Work on yourself. Become better at responding to their ways of being. We cannot control or change others, but we can make a fine imprint on the way that we control ourselves. Think, breathe, smile, and respond. Instead of react, use force and blame. This is an accountability and responsibility secret to kindness. It's a must to become a part of your daily practice. If you're reading this book knowing that it's your ego and your communication that needs to change, you've made it! Golf clap! And you're certainly not alone. I was once like you, and I'm humbled that you're ready to transform. In fact, I'm still learning every day, so we all get a good gold star for being here. Kudos to you. So, are you ready? Are you ready to go beyond? Are you ready to become a kind communicator? Great, on we go. Sit back, relax, and trust the process. The art of communication is the language of leadership. James Humes. Exercise. Let's practice. When it comes to communicating, we all make mistakes from time to time. Take a sheet of paper and draw a line down the middle. At the top of the left side, please write my communication habits that I don't like and why. On the right side, write the communication habits of coworkers and colleagues that I don't like and why. This will be your guide to knowing what it is that you feel kind of ugly about and what triggers you from the world of others. It can all be diffused over time. When you're done reading this book or continue on with the guide that follows, Design Your Mind to Be Kind, you can learn to not be bothered anymore by the stuff that haunts you. We're doing this work together. Knowing what we don't like is one thing, but writing it down and saying them out loud sets us on the road to change. Release the ego, speak your truth. If you're getting nervous, wondering when your next breakdown will be, achieve the bliss of knowing that your next breakthrough is right behind it. This mindset helps you achieve a healthier way of being, knowing that it is possible to own vulnerability, no matter what business title you have, where you live or work, how old or young you are, or what mess you're facing. Confusion, hesitation, and embarrassment show up in life to let you know that what's beyond is the change. You have to sit in the muck first. First, you have the breakdown, and then you have the breakthrough. Then you release and kindly speak your truth. It doesn't happen in one day, so be patient. In fact, research from the University of London says it takes 67 days to change a habit. I, in fact, will argue that it's taken me years to change mine. So have no fear. Once you practice these methods, you'll begin to smile when you make mistakes, and soon it becomes less about the destination of getting it right and more about the journey of living humbly. This book is destined to inspire the unique styles and lives, the leaders and professionals, their lifestyles. They're all going to go from breakdown to breakthrough. When you learn how to effectively speak your truth using kinder words and phrase alternatives, this leadership quality trickles down to teams, even in your love life, in your family, in your friendships. All of the things that inspire your legacy can come to change your life when you practice the kindness innovation. Kindness is our new principle of influence. While most of us think that influence is about power or career title, social media followers or likes, I have some secrets to share that can significantly change your mind. In fact, in an upcoming book, Own Your Influence, I will share how kindness crafts the state of any influencer. It's not your title. It's the title you get from others when you're kind and when you communicate in a clear way. That's how you influence people. It's your authenticity, your personality, and your approach, not your salary or what's written on your business card. Kindness and influence create smarter ways to build tribes. As a TEDx speaker coach, I've curated 17 TEDx events and worked with hundreds of speakers from across the US and Canada. My clients learn that their influence doesn't come from the publicity of their talk, but rather their authenticity, storytelling, and approach to communication. Ideas, kindness, how we share of ourselves can mean so much to others. We all want to be better influencers, and we all want our personas to be welcomed and loved. At the end of the day, it's not about selling yourself as better, stronger, wiser, or always being right. It's about kindness. So let's put the ego aside and breathe. Stay with me on this journey. I have many books and tips to influence how your relationships will thrive and how you can tell your story better. Communicating what you mean is a powerful tool. Your legacy can count on it. Once upon a business gathering, the Kind Communicator was handed out to different teams through focus groups at corporate events this fall. And at the end of the workshops, I heard someone shout, "This book should be in every office, every cubicle, and inside every CEO's and manager's desk. And let their employees have a copy too." Wow. Another guy said, "Our marketing agency needs 100, no 1,000. I was floored. I was honored. There are secret passageways to greatness and truth, especially in office environments, and this book is intended to get you there and beyond. I watched in awe as focus group participants drew castles. They drew birds and backpacks, and they got a lot out of the exercises. They felt childlike, and they let go. They learned to love and see their flaws, some of them for the first time. The best feedback was that adults were ready to see their weakness openly and felt comfortable doing so. I enjoy being the accountability partner for many leaders who are ready to be humble. Your flaws will be absolutely evident along this path, but seeing them and loving them is a part of the experience. There's nothing to be ashamed of in learning to speak your truth, and there's no destination, only consistent evolution. We never arrive. We simply become more aware each and every day. That's it. When we understand how to control our emotions, anger becomes a thing of the past, kindness becomes our way of the future, and we breathe before we respond to others. Our communication takes a positive turn, and the innovation process continues. May I suggest that along this journey you can repeat to yourself the words, "I am always evolving. I am imperfectly perfect." Say it again. "I am always evolving. I am imperfectly perfect." In fact, I encourage the whispering of this to take place a lot. Don't worry, you don't have to mouth it. You can just allow your mind to repeat those sayings in your head. And if you do mouth it and someone sees you, just give them a wink and show them the cover of this book, or tell them what you're listening to. Tell them about the kindness innovation to continue the ripples of its effect. And if you're still unsure about letting go of ego, I completely understand. While not everyone wants to shed their ego, nor should they have to, this book can be a beginner's course to learning more about the self and how to show up in this world. The Kind Communicator outlines the very idea that we carry fear-based weight unwillingly, but we don't have to. If you go through this book alone or with a group of trusted friends or coworkers and discover who you're meant to be, the good and the bad, you'll achieve a new life freedom with less weight of the world on your shoulders. And at that point, you get to choose what happens next. How you transform is up to you. It's quite brilliant. Are you ready to speak your truth? Have you gathered some friends to do it together? Are you confident and smiling? Are you breathing? Are you over the embarrassment of talking about ego? Yes, you are? Great! On we go. 3 things cannot be long hidden. The sun, the moon, and the truth. Buddha. Exercise. Let's practice. Write a letter to yourself and date it with today's date. Describe how you might be holding yourself back from certain things happening in your career, either from fear or your ego. As you read the letter to yourself, meditate on the possible solutions that could help you break through the patterns and the obstacles you've jotted down. The key is to search for the aha moments. Our imaginary backpacks. Harold Whitman said, "Don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive, and then go do that. Because the world needs more people who have come alive." To be fully alive, we must diminish ego, but face it in its eyes with a smile and a mindful goodbye. The ego tells us to carry our failures and our fear in imaginary backpacks on a daily basis. As you can imagine, that walk of life can become very heavy. And when you're hit with chaos or disorder, slam! Our backpacks empty onto the ground and every negative habit rolls out. Unhealthy communication patterns rampage and we're left on the ground with our breakdown. Harold Whitman asks us to come alive, so let's try it. As we learn the art of letting go, we get a chance to gently place our backpacks down to truly understand what's inside of them. We can then make the conscious choice to bring only what we need, our essential selves, not the baggage, and continue on our path, loving our mistakes for the lessons they've taught us and owning our greatness to propel us forward. For this art to take place, we need breath and the confidence to be unashamed. The answers are in the exhale. Can you breathe deeply with me? Try it again. Good. On we go. Now, as you breathe, I want you to open your eyes and your heart. When we realize we're all a part of everything we see, we become whole. Let us emerge together as on beyonders, building oneness rather than separateness. Our connection versus our division is a powerful force that moves us towards an infinite life and career. Remember, division cuts everything in half. So multiply your deep connection with yourself and others, and abundance will arrive in your daily exhales. This grand vision of connectedness between people is vast and endless, like the yearning we have for our great relationships in our lives. These connections, they grow because what's in our backpack has not only been emptied, but it becomes shared with others who may also carry what we're carrying. And it may also leave something behind. I mean, we all have a choice to leave something in our past. And when we open up to others, we might find out they too are leaving something in their past. This process, it's a risk to look inside and to discover yourself. But the reward is feeling lighter and more comfortable with who you are and ultimately with what you say and how you say it. That's Whitman's way of coming alive. Would you like to take the risk with me to leave ego behind to build upon your legacy and your relationships? Go ahead. Take the ego out of your backpack now, because this risk has no substitute. It delivers pure joy. And when we walk away from unworthy distractions, which are the ego, that hold us back from our life's desires, we let go easier. You can pretend you're doing it right now. Now reach for that ego and take it out of your imaginary backpack. It's fun to make the gestures, right? Remember, I did tell you we would become childlike in this book. It's a choice to risk, to change, to soften, to lose the fear and to become whole. And that choice will help you become the greatest kind communicator that you can be, backpack and all. The more you know, the less you carry. Mors Kochanski. Exercise. Let's practice. Get a glass of wine. And if you're under 21 listening to this, get a glass of water. Now, take a deep sip. Now place your glass down and take a piece of paper from your notebook. And I want you to draw a backpack on the ground. It's okay if you don't have to, draw perfectly. If you don't have an art degree, you can draw stick people. This process is supposed to be fun. Even if it's a circle or a blob backpack, just call it your backpack. Then add some arrows pointing inside of the backpack. Now, next to each arrow, I want you to write down your baggage, i.e., flaws, limiting beliefs, hindrances, hesitations, ugliness, resentments, fear, bad words that you use, cursing, bad manners that you have, and all the juicy stuff that you know that weighs your imaginary backpack down. Don't worry, we will eliminate them throughout this book. And there's a post guide too. It's called Design Your Mind to Be Kind. You're going to love both of them. Once you see what you're carrying, you begin to understand the importance of letting a majority of it go. Kindness, electricity. When we fear change, we miss out on the luminosity that life has to offer. So be not afraid of transforming yourself and leaving ego behind. Because what results is humanity, which I like to call kindness, electricity. Being alive is human kindness. And when we understand that love is the carrier of this electric current, it can keep us wired daily, as long as we keep the switch turned on. We all have a choice to dim the light of our conversations or shine brighter with love. Which choice dismantles fear-based thoughts? I think you know the answer. In fear-based thinking, ego whispers silently to fear, grow and expand, you are powerful. So remember, turn on your new kindness electricity so that ego can turn off and life can turn up your readiness for change. Eliminating fear becomes a stepping stone to owning and speaking your truth. Stressful situations will matter less. Your kindness will matter more. That's the magic of letting go. If you're blinded by what you fear, wear an imaginary pair of courage glasses to achieve a humble perspective. See life with new eyes and watch how the splendor in life is not to fear less, but to overcome what's holding you back. It's the sage within us that comes to life when we risk. We encounter great possibility when we realize that in pain or fear, the very act of being, doing, and believing is far worth a burden than not having done so at all. So what will you do differently? What will you say differently? That discipline will begin to show up as you question yourself and plug into your kindness electricity. If you're looking for the discipline to be more mindful and aware, look no further than the opening of your heart. Once the heart opens, your discipline will arrive instantaneously, and the kindness electricity will beam on with each breath and exhale. And listen, I'm not saying we all have to become Cindy Lou Who, the famous Dr. Seuss happily ever after character. We all have our moments. But the idea is that kind communication can exist without power or force. It's an idea to truly grasp if we desire to transform. When we discover what we're responsible and accountable for in the mishaps of our lives, we become vulnerable. It's the perseverance of actively changing that gets us to that next level of humanity. If you are too busy being narcissistic, focusing solely on yourself, closed off, thinking that you always need to be right, this is not the path to truth. In fact, it's like being half in through this life. Being half in anything, be it a relationship, a job, or a friendship, is said to be the loneliest place there is. So move forward with a breath of fresh air and experience the wonder that enters when ego becomes smaller and you become wiser. Authenticity makes your backpack lighter and connectedness delivers growth. Conduct your kindness electricity and feel the spark that you're alive. With a thumbs up from Harold Whitman, too, if you want. What's interesting is that some say Harold Whitman is a fictional name, and no one really knows who gave us that quote that opens the previous chapter. It's often confused with Howard Thurman Whitman, a theologian and educator who said this: "In the conflicts between man and man, between group and group, between nation and nation, the loneliness of the seeker for community is sometimes unendurable. The radical tension between good and evil as a man sees it and feels it does not have the last word about the meaning of life and the nature of existence. There is a spirit in a man and in the world. It's always working against the things that destroy it. And he must know that the contradictions of life are not final or ultimate. He must distinguish between failure and a many-sided awareness so that he will not mistake conformity for harmony, uniformity for synthesis. He will know that for all men to be alike is the death of life in man, and yet perceive harmony that transcends all diversities, and in which diversity finds its richness and significance." In other words, this Harold Thurman Whitman truly sums up our kindness electricity and our desire for connectedness, vulnerability, and harmony with one another while shining our authentic light with this world. The kindness innovation has begun. To transcend who we are, we must speak our truth in our own ways. To receive the harmony in which we are seeking, we must be authentic. Make uniformity and perfectionism a thing of the past, please. And as you do, you'll begin to soften, to smile, and to breathe. God is electricity, and we are the lamps. Marianne Williamson. Exercise. Let's practice. Turn on your kindness electricity. List 5 arguments or occurrences that made you feel bad because your kindness electricity was not turned on. Under each situation, write the words kindness electricity and then provide what you would have wanted to say or would have wanted to do instead. Perhaps even go as far as reaching out to that person or look to yourself to forgive. And in this process, remember your breath. Exhale and inhale. Exhale and inhale. Let's try it together. Inhale in and let it out. From barrier to possibility. Living barrier-free doesn't come easily. Our lives are filled with upsets and pitfalls, mistakes, missteps, and plenty of mayhem. I do believe that life can be more beautiful than we imagine. When things are not going right, the art of possibility is among us. We just can't see it. We need our courage glasses. And we simply have to learn how to turn our kindness electricity on to run the engines of our minds. I've learned to live in my life pleasantly in both good and bad times, and I inspire my clients to do the same. It's hard work, but it's possible. With the training that I provide, with every barrier that is shared by my clients, I teach them about freedom. Knowing that divine order is taking place and barriers show up as deterrents for the wrong directions, we must remember that it's how we respond to them rather than react that allows us to achieve the results that we desire. The art of possibility comes to life through these training tools. They include a range of tips on how to work through obstacles from falling and failing to possibilities of trust and love. And based upon our experience of being hurt often, which we've all been, we can learn to observe patience and breath. The barriers of many of our challenges are blocked by breakdowns in communication, but possibilities arrive when we release the need to be right. If you're looking to have others understand what you mean, align your words with breath, kindness, and authenticity, and watch how your approach simultaneously becomes gentler. The possibility for greater listening opens up. And rather than our instinct to argue in turbulent times, I teach my clients to surrender, which translates to breathing, which further results in communication freedom. Freedom provides truth. We can then speak in gentler ways, ways we never thought possible, with the same knowledge and experience, but with less heightened emotions. Equanimity creates a release in the heart, and acceptance of things come more easily as a daily practice. Balance enters. Take risks and smile more. Understand life impermanence and become inspired with the wisdom that everything changes, including you. Work through pain, and instead of running from it, understand yourself and others better because of it. This is the feeling of traveling from barrier to possibility. I hope you will see and use this daily practice over and over again until you embrace it as the art of letting go, and it becomes your way of being and living. One of the best barrier to possibility tales that I like to tell is about a great kingdom. One day, an enormous boulder landed in front of the king's castle. He asked his wealthy people repeatedly, "Can you please move this boulder? It's blocking the entryway." But none of the rich folks would dirty their hands or clothing, or even take the time to do such a mundane act. Until one day, a beggar walked by in shambles. His clothes were ripped. He was weak from not having eaten. He saw the boulder in front of the castle. Without even being asked, he moved the boulder for the king just purely out of kindness. Guess what was under that great big boulder? A large amount of gold and riches, shining so bright into his eyes, his tears fell in disbelief, and he was blinded by what he saw. The moral of this story is that there will be boulders in our ways and in the ways of others. Possibility is found in proactivity. It's in the movement of how we act, using the kindness innovation to propel us forward. Your instinct for kindness can deliver a surprise. The possibilities are endless once we decide to act and not react. George Bernard Shaw. Exercise. Let's practice. Let's talk about surrendering. What is currently going on with you now that you'd like to surrender? What have you recently reacted to that you simply want to let go of or simply become kinder about? Write it out in a paragraph. And then at the end, I want you to write the words, "I surrender," 3 times before and below your paragraph. Write it all over the page if you have to. Then I want you to sit quietly and meditate on the words, I surrender, letting your heart feel what you've written so that you can truly get to a place where you can try to let it go while you breathe quietly. Your stories. Carol Hedges asked, how are you tending to the emerging story of your life? What a powerful question. We all find stories, we create meanings and make decisions for others. We make assumptions outside of reality and take things far too personally. And for what? To be right? To justify? To defend? I've experienced a complete life transformation growing into my integrity when I stopped believing the negative stories that I told myself. Rather than repeating bad habits or continuing to tell myself false statements, I began to sit quietly. For lack of a better word, I sat with the stuff that was carried in my imaginary backpack, all the fear-based thoughts, horrific fight or flight responses, the erratic patterns of communicating based on emotion, which did not serve me anymore. They began to diminish because I became aware. Ashamed at first, but fully aware. With years of acknowledgement, practice, and self-love, I listened for the deeper meaning of transformation. And perhaps, since I've begun to tend to my own fake stories and assumptions that once drowned me in a sea of unhappiness, I have dedicated my work to the emerging stories of my clients, my readers, and my Beyond Ego community, as we all break it down to the art of letting go. Today, we're conspiring with a new freedom-filled, glorified communication practice. Integrity begins to show up front and center, and rather than justifying or needing to be right, integrity becomes a positive reminder for breath. Integrity simply becomes the way. As the stories we once told ourselves begin to dissipate, we believe them less, and somehow, some way, we begin to listen to them less until they are toned out without a sound. And soon, like magic, they bother us no more. We learn to become much bigger than the mediocrity of our monkey minds. As you practice this way of being, you become less judgmental and less self-critical and more caring, open, and authentic. The emerging story of your life is living beyond what was and basking in kinder ways of presenting yourself in the now. Integrity becomes your daily guide as you catch yourself before you fall. And when you fall, you simply get back up again and try. I use the word integrity a lot in my writing because I feel it's the place where our inner being and our outward selves marry. They get married within their fallacies with greatness to reveal our most naked vulnerability. It's that ruthless honesty that makes it possible to diminish the ego and become more connected and less defensive. Our separation from each other is created by ego. And when we become aware of it all, in a space of honesty, we can learn how to truly say what we mean kindly. The understanding of this is the thing that shapes our lives in ways that we cannot ever even imagine until we look back at it all and smile, knowing how much we've grown. This, my friends, is adulting with benefits. Living with a broken heart or healing soul, burned from past mistakes, provides an opening for awareness. It is then that our self-depreciating thoughts become loved, owned, and diminished. Sitting with brutal truth to learn to love our weakness is a miraculous learning experience. Sometimes the best parts of our lives come from a broken heart. That's where the wonder, the mysteries, and the awe enter. It's through those breaks that the gifts of our authenticity are able to arrive, and over time, we become who we are meant to be in this world. Perfection is highly overrated. The cleaner your hands, the less life you live. So get your hands dirty, place your feet in the mud, jump in the puddles, and embrace the challenges, mistake, and muck. In other words, have the hard conversations. Stop with the stubbornness and connect rather than divide. Let your inner courage break through. We hide from the fear of communicating when emotional turmoil is present. That's simply ego whispering to you to keep holding on to the pain. Tough moments are, in fact, life asking you to join it in harmony. As life reaches its messy hand out for you to hold during chaos, smile and reach back. If we never had messes in our lives, we wouldn't know the gratitude that follows or the freedom that arrives when we get back up from a great big fall, grimy hands and all. If you've told yourself stories in defense of criticism or judgments, and you find yourself resenting or hiding from the truth because of your insecurity, this is a great reason to halt. Stop. Slow down, pause, breathe. This is where the mastery arrives. Recognize the stories as they enter your mind and realize they are there for you to grow and become quiet. Fool's gold glitters, but it has no value. It's short-lived. Your foolish stories can be left in the minds. They're fake. Rid them. And rid ego, and you will shine not as a fool, but as a wise sage, or even better, a happy, healthy adult. Your stories allow you to recognize where you've been, where you are now, and they help you understand where you're going. If we take this and apply it to Carol Hedges and her quote on the emerging story of life, we're reminded to accept our own personal evolution. Our stories become volumes on the books on our shelves, collecting dust or being read 1,000 times in our lives, the thrillers, the love stories, the mysteries and sequels. Keep turning the pages of your life. Never be ashamed of your story. One day, it will inspire someone. Exercise. Let's practice. Your stories are your stories. Some of them are just the BS that you tell yourself to feel better, defend from being judged, or make up in your head for the need to be right. Focus on the last story you told yourself. Write a letter to a friend, but don't worry, you don't have to give it to them. In this letter, I want you to laugh about the falsities of what you told yourself and then believed. Transcribe it in detail. You need to be truthful with yourself, and if you felt like you needed to be right in the past, or maybe you needed to justify something or run from accountability, this is the time to find laughter in the muck. This is the time to be real and truthful. The reason to write this letter with our best friend in the two-line is that we want to feel comfortable, like we're at the bar with them, laughing over a glass of wine at the mediocrity of our mind. Write your letter now. Freedom. Are you playing small? Are you holding yourself back? Are you afraid of confronting ego because of the pain that it brings? Are you allowing hesitation into your life right now? Do you desire to achieve life freedom? Living and playing small is the opposite of freedom. In fact, it's misery. And nobody likes to live in misery. So to find your way to freedom, you have to release the negativity and sadness and become less stuck. This requires courage. So get your courage glasses on and let's take some risks. When we do, our perspectives become infinite, our hearts open, and we feel lighter. That's when the freedom begins to arrive. Can you feel it coming? Can you feel the freedom? Take an inhale and an exhale with me now. Good. On we go. Confronting ego sheds the weight of any misery currently taking up space within us. Recognize that there are two types of pain: self-inflicted pain and the hurt that arrives during personal development. Self-inflicted pain is caused by ego, telling you to hold on to what hurts. On the contrary, feeling hurt through personal development is a sign of maturity that you're facing your ego. It's a mechanism to understanding that what's inside is holding you back. This is the pain that ultimately leads to joy. When we commit to diffusing the ego, we become open vessels ready for joy to enter at any and many given moments. It's the roadmap to loving ourselves. So leave hesitation and ego in the past and breathe. Your ability to exhale before reacting is a self-loving freedom. It's a new positive habit that allows your fears to drip from your shoulders to the earth like raindrops sliding down an umbrella. This is freedom. Freedom from ego, allowing you to love yourself again without reservation. We don't necessarily have to be protected from the storms of our lives, but we can make our way through them with grace. If you once gave in to your greatest fears, let's call them heavy obstacles, this new self-acknowledgement for letting go provides you with the understanding that anything can be moved or transported when love is ever present. Your kindness electricity is the conductor that glides this love to its next place so that your life illuminates, unites, and connects freely. Those who don't move don't notice their chains. Rosa Luxemburg. Exercise. Let's practice. Draw a stick figure of you. Yes, I'm serious. Draw a stick figure of you. It's going to be okay. No one's looking. Now, I want you to write the words in big, big letters at the top. Freedom. Write it there on the top of the page. Then I want you to write the line, I would feel more free if. And then write down all of the words and actions that come to your mind that would lead you to your personal freedom. Hello, ego. Goodbye, ego. The great power of self-understanding arrives when we face the ego and let it go. Like a hello and a goodbye, blow it a kiss and give it a wink. Then see yourself with courage glasses on taking a new egoless strut down the street into the office, kindness swagger with each step and less weight in your backpack. You show up in life experiencing oneness rather than separateness. Leaving ego as your path to a calmer well-being. You simply learn to be. Dr. Wayne Dyer had a great way of explaining ego, giving it the acronym EDGE God Out. Meaning that when we act in ways that fuel the ego, we edge God out. Universe, higher power, or spirit, whatever you want to call it. And whether you believe in God or not, it's a great tool to learn that we not only edge God out, but we edge each other out as well. And that can certainly dismiss the happiness that we seek. We must commit to speaking our truth through kindness and use healthier ways of communicating to edge each other back in. And perhaps God too, if that's your thing. Consider this great ego conversation as a thought starter. Bring it up at your next dinner party. I'm sure it will spark a great debate. I told you we'd talk about ego more healthily. That's what we do as On Beyonders. Can we encourage others to jump on board with us? Rather than turning our heads, flicking our hands, and say, nope, I'm fine, I'm good. Instead, I'm asking you to say, I'd like to learn how to be better. These are the types of conversations with the self that come up when we enter into the zone of letting go. Perhaps you can offer up this thought process. With the mashed potatoes and carrots, your dinner is going to become really interesting. And then smile as your guests respond. You can start by having them throw the word egotistical into the ocean. Tell them to make the hand gesture of throwing it too. It'll be fun. Just make sure that they don't throw the food. The word egotistical, it makes us defensive. It's not a healthy word. Let's change it to the phrase, own your vulnerability instead. I like that. This new phrase, own your vulnerability, provides a sense of self-ownership, accountability, and responsibility. Everything that we can account for who we are and how we show up matters. When we own our mistakes and love them without defense, we become connected. This theme, it may not be right for all dinner parties, but if you're gathering with a few friends over some pot pie or vegetable lasagna, a little wine, I want you to try it out and let me know how it goes. Ego is simply an idea of who you are that you carry around with you. Wayne Dyer. Exercise. Let's practice. At your next dinner party or gathering of friends, ask them about this topic. Ask them about the word egotistical and how it may hold them back from learning, growing, and being aware of mistakes. For starters, in your pad, I want you to write the top 3 ways that your ego has shown up in your life that has ruined relationships, jobs, or experiences. Maybe even conversations that didn't go so well. Then at the bottom of the page, write, I will be egoless from now on. Build your kindness castle. Communication is the essence of life. It truly helps to unblock the barriers that hinder us. So how do we get to the communication breakthroughs? We learn to speak our truth. How do we do that? We rid ourselves of the negative stories that live within our minds, as well as the stuff that we carry in our backpacks. How do we do that? We dig down deep like a child with a shovel in the sand and find the water that's been sitting underneath, and we bring it to the surface of our life beach. Then we build our kindness castles. Unanswered questions and unspoken problems remain inside until they're lived. Just like the water sitting deep below the sand at the beach, it is only when we begin to dig that it rises. Similarly, with our communication, our words rise with integrity when we speak our truths. Discuss the problems that you're facing and talk about them. Talk about the unanswered questions that live deep inside of you. That's the way to truth. If we stop, breathe, and take a trip 10,000 feet above ourselves to see who we are and how we act, there's a start. Once we have this bird's eye view, we see much clearer. We watch our mannerisms, hear our words, and see our worlds through this hovering, and we recognize the breakthroughs that have to occur. We see the breakdowns as they are and the authenticity of moments. Hover over yourself right now at your beach. How do you see yourself in all moments, including the chaos? What is it that you see? What are you hearing? What are your mannerisms? I want you to dig deep. This is my great sand analogy that teaches the meaning of acceptance and acknowledgement. We all have truths that remain inside of us. It is only when we dig deep within our soul that they are able to come out. Our truths must be dug up in order to build the castle which we call home. And once dug, we must accept and acknowledge what's there. You can't build a sandcastle without wet sand. The same goes for our best selves. We can't build our fortress without getting drenched from facing the damp, unreasonable patterns or soaked secrets of our lives. They make us who we are and allow us to understand ourselves and our actions much clearer. This sand analogy can also be applied to kinder communication. We have to get over the limitations we set for ourselves. We hide the things that we don't like. We hide them and push them deep down. But in order to communicate with clarity, we have to go beyond the surface of how we show up. Like the mixing of wet and dry sand, our kind castles get built when we mix our bad with our good sides, fear with courage, as we own who we are, become humble, and find acceptance. As you hover 10,000 feet above your beach and your castle, I invite you to let the water rise up, to give you a new foundation to continue building your communication and your truth. It's all a part of the process of the kindness innovation. Take a breath and sincerely think about what you need to dig up in order to kindly speak your truth. If you're unable to speak the obvious, then there is definitely an awareness block. When we're unaware, we don't get to see our obvious mistakes because we're too busy running from them. Perhaps we get caught up telling ourselves fake stories so that we don't have to be responsible. Through kind communication practices, our fallacies are faced with courage, accountability, and humility. And when the ego tries to hold us back from this communication freedom, we surrender to our breath and kindly speak our truth. It's a natural step-by-step process, and sometimes the steps are out of order. But you'll be amazed at how it transpires once you begin to exhale and use a calmer voice. What we dread must always be acted on in order to release the limitations living inside of us. And while it may seem that when we surrender we fall, it's quite the opposite. When we become one with the very nature of life, we become accountable and more responsible. We're carried steadily by our turmoil, walking with the grace that sustains us as humans, marked not as fearless, but as owning vulnerability. It can be said that we become kinder communicators when we simply let it all go. So I say, build your castles, dig up the wet sand hidden in your backpack, and watch how sturdy your home becomes. In this case, your home houses your heart and mind and thus provides a nicer voice, one that you own and love, knowing that you can speak your truth as a kinder beachgoer, otherwise known as a kinder human being. Communication works for those who work at it. John Powell. Exercise. Let's practice. Draw a sandcastle with 5 towers. Next to the towers, write the 5 things that you're currently carrying around but wish to let go or communicate to someone. At the bottom of the page, write down this sentence: I will own my vulnerability and communicate what I fear most. I will build my castle and I will prepare it and protect it. Meditate on this idea of your life beach for a few minutes with deep inhales and exhales. Emptying the mind. The confusion from thinking too much or carrying too much in our minds can keep us overwhelmed and can halt us from the very letting go process. Sometimes our minds are crowded for a long period of time, and this drastically hinders us from communicating clearly because our minds are too full. More is not always better. A release needs to occur. Things that are unfinished can become ghosts following us. And ghosts are scary. We don't have to complete everything, and we can certainly keep a few memories from the past, but moving forward with clarity requires greater peace within ourselves, and that comes from emptying the mind. We must slow down and embrace self-love before we can begin to love ourselves. We must rid the mind of the unfinished or uncarried baggage that ego tells us that we must remain holding on to. Put the backpacks down. Inhale, exhale, and breathe. Let's try an inhalation now. And exhale with me. Good. On we go. Does your mind feel full? Does it feel like it needs an emptying? Does an emptying really need to occur? Only you can tell me that. You can tell yourself that by discovering and admitting to your truth. As you shed your ego, you melt away the overcrowding of thoughts and past mistakes to make room for what's to arrive. Greater communication patterns then soften their way into your life. This doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen. Please take great patience with yourself during this process. It can take years to empty the mind, and it requires a tremendous amount of vulnerability. As you're transforming right here, right now, with this very book, and you begin to feel alive with candor and compassion, recognize that the mind always needs a break. Kind of like the way that you deserve a vacation once in a while. When you go on vacation, you smile more. Are you smiling right now? Good. On we go. Now remember, nature will take its course and everything will fit into place at the right time. We can ignite the process though, and we can charge up the aliveness that we crave like a battery. We do so by plugging into the kindness electricity that transforms us into kinder people we're meant to be. Mindful without the mind being full. The soul always knows what to do to heal itself. The challenge is to silence the mind. Carolyn Miss. Exercise. Let's practice. What is the most pressuring thing on your mind right this very moment, and why? I want you to write it down in your notebook. Then below it, I want you to finish this sentence. I can solve this problem by emptying what's haunting me. Take a few minutes to meditate on emptying your mind from the pressures you feel and walk away lighter. Vulnerability and certainty. It's a scary place, isn't it? When we're in this vulnerable space of letting go, giving ourselves permission and the courage to be scared. Vulnerability is one of the greatest strengths that we can develop, and building that gallant muscle is the cornerstone of transformation. It's like a new currency in life. Open your wallet today and get rich in vulnerability. If you ask me how rich I am in this currency, I'd answer, I'm filthy rich in mistakes, exaggerations, and emotions. That's my honest answer. And it's honesty that we must accept to become fully alive. Vulnerability is our ability to carry weakness and strength equally. The weak hide their blemishes, and the strong share their truth. But the vulnerable show up and own it all. This constant tide of heartache and joy enables us to swim in the oceans of our days, lying gracefully on a raft of awareness. To flow through life's waters with courage is an undeniable act. When we stop struggling, we bond with the uncomfortable and float towards land, arriving with a calmer view of life. I'm a strong believer that the very best view of any body of water is one that shows an infinite horizon. The uncertainty of direction, looking out at the vast nothingness and being able to know that something is out there, but we don't have to know what it is. That's the view. That is the view. What do you see in your vulnerability view? You can share it with me now, if you'd so be inclined, at elizabethbarryconsulting@gmail.com. When you gaze upon this uncertain horizon, face your truth. I want you to look into the eyes of your mind, of your soul, and recognize the patterns that frustrate your human abilities to be flexible and bend with change. Be patient with yourself. Remember, change requires risk, and risk requires walking away from certainty. Our assurance of life is nothing but a smoked mirror in the way of our reflection. We must walk away from the fogged mirror and turn our backs away from the need to be right and the need to justify. It's all a life halt from greatness. Uncertainty provides the inner strength to go with the flow of the ocean waters within us. The opposite of uncertainty is hesitation, staring at a false reflection. Going against any currents is the hardest path there is. Standing facing your mirror and becoming comfortable with the uncomfortable, that's where truth is going to shine. Vulnerability lives in the uncertainty. And as you learn to simplify and simply be in your ocean of life, through the gaze in your eyes, your view of life transforms. While floating through this vulnerability, we can recognize that much of our hesitations in life are created from the falsity of guarantees. We place expectations onto ourselves and others. We need to be guaranteed to be wealthy, handsome, beautiful, or smart. Finality is a lie. Expectations are horrific patterns, and they're filled with lies that we tell ourselves. That's the ego. Guarantees contain little life discovery. And with little discovery, we are left with boredom and falsehoods. So what if you're not beautiful? What is beauty anyway? So what if you're not rich? Are you rich in kind communication? Are you rich with happiness? Remember the way I opened this book. Healthy is the new wealthy. This is the currency we ought to be looking for in life as happy adults. With every breath, leave the guaranteeing behind and get rich with vulnerability. Can you breathe again with me now? Good. On we go. To the forest. Now I want you to imagine a tree in a forest. Trees reach up and out, but they never hold, they never grasp. When it's time for their leaves to fall, they allow them. When new leaves are born, they allow them. New leaves are never guaranteed to arrive, and the older leaves never expect an endless time in a branch. This journey through powerful allowing is life's great reminder to simply be while you let go of attachments. Nothing in life is guaranteed. Uncertainty is a fogged mirror. Wipe it off. Become vulnerable and see the authenticity in your smile when you give up the need to be right. Simply reach for freedom like the trees. For my part, I know nothing without any certainty, but the sight of stars make me dream. Vincent van Gogh. Exercise. Let's practice. Draw a tree. I want you to surround it with grass and stars in the sky. Place 8 branches in the tree that are reaching up to the stars. With each branch, I want you to write down your top 8 expectations or top 8 certainties that you think you need to have to live happily. And when you're done under the tree, write the sentence, "There are no guarantees." Meditate on this image for about 5 minutes with classical music playing in the background. If you want to get sassy and you have the ability to do so, maybe even plant a tree. And with the seed, write a note encompassing all the things that you're letting go or setting free. And as the tree grows, you will too. Take flight. Like a bird with a wingspan of infinite measure and the ability to soar to great lengths, we must make new choices to leap, drift, and land without worry. We may end up with a broken wing, but to fly, we must risk. We have all been the perched bird in fear of communicating our truths. We're all broken, but let's not judge, point, or think harshly of ourselves, or for those whom we see in pieces. This new oneness we are sharing together in this book allows us to feel the brokenness of us all, seeing our brutal truths, but somehow newly unembarrassed, with integrity and a smile from letting it all go freely. It's like seeing the stars in the dark. You're connected to someone somehow in this great, vast universe who has also let go of their ego. That is oneness. That is kindness, electricity lit up by the stars. When we let things go, we allow things to enter. By letting things out, we allow things in. The numbness we feel when we're in pain is a simple reminder that any difficulty causes our chest to expand heavily as we contract and lose our breath. But in a calm exhale, we allow ourselves to feel. We stop holding our breath because we realize that the more we let in and out, our breath of life continues. Our exhales become reminders for living in the now, being one with our mistakes, and living wholly as more humble human beings. If you want a visual, imagine a bird taking the risk to fly for the first time. Picture that now. When we're ready to leave our perch in search of our truths, we're ready to be kind. This journey is endless, without a destination, understanding that to risk is to fly. And when we take off, we are weightless. What a feeling that must be. The shell must break open before the bird can fly. Exercise. Let's practice. Write the top 6 things that you want to take risks on, but haven't yet. This is your to-do list to make sure that you accomplish these risks within the next 3 to 6 months. Because to risk is to fly. If you want to get sassy, you can draw a bird on there too. Authenticity. The willingness to change and transform, to breathe and to fly, is like the cocoon of a butterfly, the skin of the snake, the seedling of a flower, the cracking open of an egg ready to reveal a baby bird. The baby bird, once fully grown, cannot live inside the egg, so why keep the egg closed? This very analogy is painted in my first book for women, Own Your Vulnerability. We must learn to tend to our growth and live with the cracks in our shells, knowing they're there, but not thinking of them as weakness, but more so as our authenticity, our character. It is then that we become whole, and our wholeness allows life to begin again and again and again, day after day. It's the risk that we take when we break open that delivers the aliveness we crave. It's the life in the years, not the years in the life. So what would you call living in your truth? What will you shed? Who will you transform into? And how will you kindly communicate in this new way of being? What does authenticity mean to you? Are you ready to speak your truth to the world? Are you ready to speak your truth to yourself? Living and speaking our truth through kindness shines our life light as we courageously admit our darkest fears and weakest moments. If we're scared, can we learn to share our heartache? If we're fearful, can we admit to the fear? If we are embarrassed, can we find new reasons to leave shame behind? This new spiritual connection with the nature of who we are brings about new peace to understand that everything is connected. This peace allows us the ability to share more of who we are unafraid. Sharing brings a release. It's like an act of authentic, brave love. I've seen completely transformations in relationships simply by choosing empathetic and compassionate words shared amongst one another. I've seen it happen. The fears once hidden, then spoken, become truths. And that turns on the kindness electric currents, conducting new positive life changes in all of us. As we light our way towards our truth, rather than dim our greatness or hinder the illustriousness of others or ourselves, we take the risk and we become free. Our authenticity has the ability to illuminate the world, or at minimum, those around us. The more we share of ourselves, the lighter we feel. And that levity provides the freedom to speak kindly. Perhaps we go beyond the letter Z, like Dr. Seuss, speaking freely in our authenticity with newfound words, which we never thought possible. Authenticity is the highest state of being that the spiritual practitioner can achieve. In fact, in the years to come, authenticity will become the replacement for enlightenment as the true goal of spiritual practice. Teal Swan. Exercise. Let's practice. Take a new page in your notebook. I want you to draw a smiley face on the page, and then I want you to write the top 10 traits that make you, you. As Dr. Seuss said, there's no one youer than you. So what makes you awesome and authentic? This is your reminder that no matter how stressed or anxious you are in any situation, you still have your greatness. It never leaves us. It never leaves you. It's your reminder to focus on the possible and the positive during the most impossible or the negative. The listening garden. Now that we're learning this new way of being, we can communicate from the heart without uttering a word. We breathe and smile more. We think, wow, I can live loudly without a sound. Much of this practice comes to fruition when we truly, actively listen. Listening is much harder skill than speaking. When we practice great listening, we can open our hearts towards one another and embrace our kindness electricity with softer words emerging daily. I've seen it happen. It's in the release and the exhale, the surrendering and having the courage to let go. It's not that we don't care as much, but more so we put less emphasis on emotion or dire need to be right. When we listen, we become clear. When we're clear, we feel good. Buddha said, successful people always have two things on their lips: silence and a smile. Listening is an innate opportunity within us all. Let's compare listening to flowers, shall we? Like a tiny bud blossoming into a red rose or a purple orchid blooming from a small seed, flowers have the courage to break through and bloom. They don't think about it much, they're just being. They listen to their inner nature and calmly grow into their new place in this world. With the help of the sun, the rain, the air, the bees, and the wind. Notice that, alike to flowers, we too have outside experiences that can either slow us down or speed up our growth. Remember oneness and connectedness as you understand your place in this world. Know that you cannot control others or outside experiences, but you can breathe and you can be in the process. And sometimes that's all you can do. Perhaps we can all learn a little bit more about our garden of the inner power of listening. Once we tend to this garden, we can choose to listen over speaking too much, too soon, or too harshly. As we mature this practice, it becomes a part of who we are. When we are quiet, kind, and free, We listen without judging and speak less to be further understood. Like sunflowers blooming with their brightest yellow hues amongst multitudes of fellowing, flowering stems, we bask in the quiet of our own present moments, knowing that listening equates to kindness and communication. And the newfound freedom that we feel, that's life blossoming inside of our kind nature. We become one with our very own breath and hear more than we ever heard before. We're like seeds ourselves, blossoming and hearing the world much more clearly as we ourselves become broken open. This listening garden is our guide to the gentler voice that lives within our soul. Our quiet simply initiates our spirit to develop new words and ways to live a better, kinder life. The quieter you become, the more you can hear. Buddha. Exercise. Let's practice. I'm going to ask you now to listen to classical music for a good 5 to 10 minutes. No phone, no interruptions. Just listen and be. The Rose Garden. Among all the learning that we've shared together in this book, the question now becomes, how can we live a fuller life through the life we've been given? First, we must commit to our willingness to risk, open, and bloom without the fear, the guilt, or the insecurity that we carry in our imaginary backpacks. Close your eyes and imagine a beautiful rose garden and place yourself in the center. Now I want you to look around and smell the sweet fragrances blossoming without thinking. Flowers kindly listening to one another side by side. That's powerful. But know this. Some roses turn in on themselves and will not release fragrance. They're discarded at floral shops before even reaching your home. That sounds so sad. Why discard if there is no fragrance? Why not give them a shot to live and learn to provide the sweet aroma of what is innate? So let me ask you now, how accustomed are you at being so closed that you are afraid to release your fragrance? Are you afraid to speak your truth? You have the choice to release and you have the choice to bloom. The ego is holding the fear within you. So remember that hindering is a block for joy. You can bloom like the flowers you see here in this book. You can reach like the trees without grasp. It's all available to you. When flowers bloom, the bees come. And from one flower to the next, they begin sharing nectar everywhere. Isn't that a nice thought? That when you break open, you attract life's blessings and individuals who want to share with you. When you flourish as a kind communicator, you become that rose garden that everyone wants to sit within quiet, sharing the connection, experiencing oneness versus separateness. Here are 2 ideas to consider. Even the strongest of stems have the softest petals. In other words, strong leaders can be compassionate and empathetic. 2, fully bloomed roses open next to closed ones. Not all of us evolve at the same time or have the tools to do so, but we can learn to work next to the ones who are late bloomers. Imagine those flowers, and then think back at how you show up in your life or business relationship or any relationship for that matter. As you evolve and as others around you don't evolve as much, can you still grow beside them carefully and gracefully? Perhaps now more quietly than you did before, knowing that you have your own inner garden of listening available for you to become quieter and calmer whenever you want. It's all within you. We can't all evolve at the same time, and not all of us have the tools, but we can try to find balance when we simply learn to be around ourselves and others. That's when the balance arrives. Being closed off is like a rose without fragrance. There's no sweet scent when the bud is clenched. Perhaps that rose sits in fear of the sun. Perhaps we too sit in our fear. In fact, many of us sit fearful, waiting for things to happen. We waste so much time, so much energy, so many years in the waiting of things. A flower doesn't wait to bloom. It just blooms. When we hesitate, that's ego holding us back. It wants us to tightly grasp onto pain. But remember the trees that reach up without grip? Remember the difference between self-inflicted pain and the pain from maturity and self-awareness? Release. Listen. Feel the pain as it arrives. It's a signal that something within you has to change. We all experience pain, but we must take the time to listen to it. There's purpose in pain. Follow the purpose and let it lead you to your listening garden. Be ready to hear what is meant to be told to your soul. Release the fear and produce positive inner changes. That's the journey to a healthier, happier you. That garden. That is where we belong. As we inhale and exhale and bloom when we are ready, we risk and open and have no fear of what's to come. Now that's a rose I'd like to sit next to. To plant a garden is to believe in tomorrow. Audrey Hepburn. Exercise. Let's practice. Write a loving meditation to the people in your life that hurt you or don't communicate with you kindly. Write a one-line sentence to each of these people wishing them well. Wish them happiness and ask them for healing. For the words they've used to cause you pain, forgive them and forgive yourself. Rediscover your purpose. As we're on the search for who we are and who we are not, transformation occurs. It occurs when we realize what's missing, and what's missing arrives when we're quiet. That's where the growth begins, the aha moments, the breakdowns and breakthroughs. Our purpose appears in the pain. The ego tells us that we don't know who we are or what our purpose is. And that's okay, because we're going to find it and lose it many a time in our lives. As long as we stay this course and follow our purpose towards speaking with compassion, we will be led to our next, no matter what we fear. Kindness will lead the way. But how do we get to the quiet? How do we find the kind in our busy lives? How do we go beyond in our communication? It may be time to pile less onto ourselves. There's no room for truth to be spoken when we carry layer after layer of a worry. We can suffocate our minds when we don't release our thoughts. Remember that our minds need breaks, and like roses without fragrance, we close up. So let the horticulturalist inside of you prune those thorns on your roses. We must cut off our need to rediscover our next. Our need for more must be replaced with the now. We must snip off the dead leaves to feel our sense of self in this world. We must become okay with what is and let go. We can do that in our listening gardens. In the quiet, our revelations share what we are not. And our vulnerability tells us that we are beautiful with or without what we think we ought to have. It is then that who we are begins to blossom and purpose begins to bloom. Even if we come to a point in the future and forget who we are again and again and again, hey, you took the risk and be proud of that. A new bud is always waiting to come up from the seeds of life. If you've been chasing after something or someone for a long time and realize that in the receiving, it was within you the entire time, or it is not what you wanted after all, it's okay to let the chasing go. Let it go with ego. That is the way to beyond. That is the way to breath. Perhaps you're still chasing now. If that's the case, then when you're simply ready to be, you will discover what's within. And in your listening garden, your revelations will reveal what to do when it's duly time. The nature of who you are will lead you to where you're meant to be. So love yourself and leave conflicts at bay. The ego wants you to keep them close, but they're poison. The same poison that turns a rose into itself, releasing no fragrance. Speak your truth and turn on your kindness electricity. Reach up like the trees without grasping. Fuel your words and ways with healthy communication, and your newly repeated patterns of your egoless life will show up more and more as they allow you to know that this is the way to beyond. Your purpose is waiting. It's time to bloom. Be kind. Love, Elizabeth. Emotional intelligence and anger. I couldn't have written this book without acknowledging hot feelings, such as anger and jealousy, learning to be kind without our communication, and within our communication of good and bad, releasing bad habits, bringing in new ones. It's all a learning. We can all be difficult to manage and control, especially our hot feelings. By addressing the idea of emotional intelligence, we have to learn to understand that our distractions find a more realistic viewpoint towards life situations when we release, when we go beyond the ego. We all have a choice to leave the emotions aside. We have a choice to lower our voice and address our needs and desires in calmer ways. Emotional intelligence is our ability to understand and recognize emotions and then use that information to guide us forward to make better decisions. The truth is, there are many instances of our days when we can get angry, we boil up to the point of blowing our tops off, especially in the office, especially at home when things aren't going right, and every breakdown is a breakdown in communication. I'm certain of that. People get on our nerves, but if you use the emotional intelligence you're given to understand that the anger you're feeling is an opportunity to address something that is not sitting right with you, you can learn that the kindness innovation of communication and new ways of thinking about how you're feeling are arriving. This book is your hope. This book offers transformation for any hot behaviors and any bad experiences, and it turns them around into inspirational ways to thrive in your relationships instead of allowing them to become ruined by emotion. Being a kind communicator is a beautiful new you. As you reflect on situations, as you control your feelings, and instead of immediate reactions, you breathe. Perhaps you smile, and the art of self-discovery and the loss of ego become available. This can take a few months or years or maybe even a lifetime to do, but it can be done. By expressing our thoughts in kinder ways, we are using our emotional intelligence to guide us towards the better person that lives inside of us, that I do know wants to come out more often than not. Confrontation is a fact of life, and if we begin to create healthy boundaries for ourselves and kinder communication for more present ways of being, we can show up with kinder words, better patterns, better manners as we take our first step at connection. Remember, separateness is not the way. Connection is the desire here, and the understanding of emotions, creating balance, misplacing blame, becoming curious, breaking open, owning self-awareness, and being compassionate. It's all going to result in communicating skillfully, or better said, communicating kindly. This is a very important topic to address because kind communication is a necessary tool, especially when we're angry or jealous. So as you open up your soul to speak your truth and better understand yourself and your emotions, please know that you are not alone. We are all angry on some days, and some days we're more jealous than others. You don't have to stay there. We can let it all go. And once it's understood and let free, we can reach like the trees again. Anger and pain, it's all the same. There's purpose in it. Feel the purpose. Learn what the purpose is. Become to know it. But don't hold on to it like the ego wants. Let it go. And let the old and the new you embrace the art of freedom as you conduct that kindness electricity you know you have inside. Just turn on that switch. The new you. Who is this new you that I keep referring to in this book, and why? You've heard me say it a few times. The new you. Who is that? As you evolve your communication patterns, you gain the ability to catch yourself in the moments. The moments when you're about to lose it or have lost it, you stop and freeze and you pause. You're delicate. You become aware of what you said or did, and you immediately make amends sooner rather than later. One of the greatest phrases that I hear my clients say over and over again is this: the old me would have said this, or the old me would have done this. That phrase is such great proof that this kindness innovation works. Self-forgiveness is a tool that is gained on this path. Now, if you're ready to watch the new you in action, take part in this very process and allow yourself to be vulnerable with the old and the new. The gift of beyond. Miracles in life appear when you have the courage to start. I realize that this book is a soft read, and for many leaders with busy lives and schedules, some of this nature may be too much to handle or too soft to process. But before I put this book out there, I want you to know I had several conversations with entrepreneurs and C-suite executives, many of whom were in their 50s and 60s, having led great careers with awards and large salaries and teams in the thousands. The one thing we all learned when reading this book together was that they wished that they had more time to relax during their careers. They wished that they had recognized the need for more now moments, for more kindness. Many of them yearned to give their teams the practices found in this very book. They agreed wholeheartedly that their teams miscommunicated daily, and they didn't know how to fix it with the different personalities involved. Not everyone needs to be friends, but they do need to work efficiently together. And much of that comes down to communication, which the C-suite leaders noted, I could have been kinder to lead them further. One focus group attendee turned to me and said, you know what? That was the first time I began to look at flowers more. I smiled throughout this book, and I exhale more often now. And when I see a flower, I think of you, Elizabeth. It was so heartwarming for me to hear. If you're a busy leader, newly introducing yourself to a flower or a bee or the trees again with your childlike nature and kind communication, I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to see and learn how this book has made an impact on your life, on your perspective, or even your approach with yourself or others. It is through the self that we create change. Our inner shifts cascade to those around us. Trickle-down theories are in full effect in business relationships, and when we learn how to lead with compassion, our teams, even our customers, learn from every message and way of being. It ripples amongst those who are ready to float on their vulnerability rafts with us in the oceans of who we are, connected rather than divided. My wish for you with this book is that you soften as a leader, not to be weak, but to become stronger with centered breath and awareness. My ask of you is to gift this book to your colleagues that may need a lift or a helping hand. Give it as a gift to those who are stressed or worried or carry too much of the weight of the world on their shoulders, or as the book states, in their imaginary backpacks. The best way to describe a kindness innovation to anyone is to ask them to take part. So I invite you to do the work and to pick up my next book, Design Your Mind to Be Kind, and the next book, Heaven on 11. Everything that I write is based on positivity, kindness, love, self-love, the power of now. And I place nature in every single book and real-life stories of personas that we can look to and look up to, look down to on this kindness journey. Simply, let's all be kind together. Thank you for your time. You can visit elizabethbarryconsulting.com to receive individual coaching and to read and learn about additional books and workshops or any more advice to let it all go. From vulnerability to ego to leadership and communication, your heart can never be too full for what life has ready for you to learn at any age. Please continue to follow me on my journey through kindness and the kindness innovation. Here's a little note from me. I want to thank you for reading my work or listening to it in this audio version. It gave me great joy to produce this book, as it's been an ever-evolving life story to continuously work on my personal and professional development. It began in my early 20s, reading every Robin Sharma and Wayne Dyer book and listening to Wayne's CDs in a 6-disc changer over and over and over and over again. Even as I fell asleep, I knew them by heart. My practice began when I repeatedly heard the words self-care and self-love. I wasn't sure what they meant or how to engage in that work, but I knew that it translated to becoming a kinder, more grounded person, and I wanted to be there. In my early years, I had several embarrassing communication patterns. I was harsh and abrasive to those who judged me. I was carrying fear and insecurity in my back pocket. I encountered people with ego problems and gave them back exactly what they gave to me. I knew that it wasn't my way. I knew I didn't want to live that life. That wasn't the life fulfilled. I wanted to change, but I didn't know how. It was during that time, with Wayne Dyer, and still today, that I began to shift and soften. I sit quiet. I unpacked my backpack. I looked inside my heart, and I knew that I had to face my ego and my fears. I had to face my hesitations. It was a remarkable life experience, and it's all become my way of life and my body of work. I met Wayne at a yoga festival in 2012, and his right-hand woman co-hosted 2 of my TEDx events. His daughter, Sky Dyer, sang and spoke at my New York City TEDx event, and I coached her on her talk. I even went to Maui and walked the beaches in case I got another chance to talk with him. As he is in heaven now, I pray to Wayne Dyer for guidance, continuing the work that he taught me, knowing that he's ever present in my books, my work, and my coaching. Much of what you read in this book came from heartache. Yes, heartache results in wisdom. It took every ounce of me to learn to swallow my pride before I spoke in my past relationship. I could never catch the words before they left my mouth, and it became a painful process to clean up the mess after I made it over and over and over again. Even the person I was with was not evolved, but both of us, we knew we had to become accountable for our actions and reactions. As I engaged in the process that you've read in these pages, I learned to breathe, I responded and reacted much less. The response, the exhale, the breathing, it all changed me in real time. I focused on acceptance rather than angst. I allowed myself to stand for the better me, even when I stood in front of others who judged or were unevolved. I simply grew out of it, and every time I did it through an exhale. And soon, the things that once bothered me didn't bother me anymore. I learned to let it all go. My reason for sharing this truth with you is this. I was never confident enough or strong enough at the time to say what I needed to say kinder. I could have never handled the situations that were difficult without this type of work. Time was my only solution to becoming a better me, along with the coaching that I got that inspired me to now take on my business in a new way. Time gets you like that, so don't waste any of it. Learn, grow, and repeat now, today. And don't forget to listen to The Living Years by Mike and the Mechanics. It sums up this book so well. Learn to have the patience you need to be the better you that you can be. Love, accept, and acknowledge what is, no matter where you are on your journey. And be kind. I want to read one last note to you. It's a special thanks. It's a special thanks to all of the flowers to know that opportunity is possibility. The flowers and the leaves, the universe, the grass and the trees, they're all our reminders that nature is our teacher and we must remain in class. Thank you for listening. My name is Elizabeth Barry. This is the Kind Communicator, and it is housed within the kindness innovation in my Beyond Ego philosophy. Please share it with everyone you know. Namaste.